We are live. Welcome,
All right.
Sebastian. How are you doing
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, I'm fine. And you?
Amazing.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much for joining us for Go with the Flow number 9.
Okay, cool. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we are really happy to have you here today. The title of this podcast is Journey into Healing. Awaken
Mhm.
your life force with the breath. It's a topic that I'm very passionate about. Myself, I use the Wim Hof breathing method almost every day, and I love how my body and my mind feels. And the day that I don't do it, I feel it right away.
Mhm.
What a difference to your day
Okay.
doing that. So I can't wait to go into more details of that. But before we start,
Sure.
for
Yeah.
anyone for anybody who is listening today or listening through the recording, this will be posted on my YouTube channel, and it will be also available through Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. So for any of the audience, let me share a little bio about yourself, and then you can tell us more about your story. Okay. So
Sure.
Sebastian,
Yeah.
good. Sebastian was born and raised in France, near Paris. He moved to the US in 2005 and to Canada in 2019 in order to pursue his career as a scientist. He's a microbiologist and a biochemist with a PhD in those disciplines. And as such, he prioritizes facts or evidence based knowledge and rigorous methodology. His personal interest in the Wim Hof method arose when he was in the process of treating a 10-year-long chronic fatigue syndrome that was associated with limb disease and depression. After spending thousands of dollars in medications, supplements, and various therapeutic approaches, he found out that he had more results by breathing air and sucking
Mhm.
into ice. Really interesting.
Mhm.
The Wim Hof method has been gradually putting him back on the right track, brought his happiness back, and is slowly but surely bringing him back to the active lifestyle. And that is what you are. Your purpose, I will say, that's your purpose now to share with the world of what you have discovered for yourself. But I'd love to hear from you, Sebastian, your story. How did you end up in Quebec, and how did the disease came up, and what were maybe the most critical turning points for you through that journey.
Yeah. So first, how I ended up here. So first, as you said in my bio, I moved to. I crossed the ocean first to move to the US back in 2005, and it's because I'm a scientist, as you mentioned. And when you're a scientist, you are so like specialized in your field that you it can be hard to find like a lab that is doing exactly what you want to do because it's so specialized. So, for example, in my field, there were maybe like 5 labs I wanted to work in the whole world.
Mhm.
One of them was in the US, so I moved there. And fast forward like 15 years later, in fact, it was my wife's lab who moved to Canada.
Mhm.
And so I followed the move and I joined the lab. So that's how I ended up here.
Okay, so it
Um,
was really for work, it wasn't a personal
yeah,
choice. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and but I was completely happy for that. I was.
Mhm.
It's like okay, new country, new adventure. After growing up in France, living 15 years in the US, yeah, new country to visit.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
nice.
Um, so now I'm in Montreal,
Mhm.
and I started the Wim Hof method in 2016. So I was in the US at that time.
Mhm. When were
Um,
you diagnosed with the disease?
so my problem started around 2008,
Mhm.
but it took uh,
So when you
it
were in the States.
yes,
Yeah.
but it took years before I had the diagnosis of chronic Lyme disease.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I saw many doctors, many, like either like regular or what we call alternative doctors, and nobody you really knew. I mean, they were saying, "Oh, you are depressed," which was true. I mean, when you are chronically fatigued and
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what's going on, you end up being really depressed. So that
You
was,
energy and
yeah.
anxiety, I guess.
And so yeah, and I had like those kind of weird chronic pain and stuff like that, dizziness episodes and things like that. But at some point, yeah, I had a test. I mean, one of my doctor he said, okay, let's do a Lyme disease test, and the test, it was like the regular one,
Mm-hmm.
was negative, but he said, okay, let's do another kind of test, different approach, and that one was positive. So I took like a long treatment, um, but at the end of the treatment, so that was in a Lyme specialist clinic,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the treatment, so we redid the test, and and then I was negative, so the infection was gone,
Okay.
but I was still having like
Side
those
effects.
like symptoms of
Symptoms.
fatigue
Yeah.
and this pain and stuff like that. And the doctor told me, well, and he was what we call like integrative doctor. So he was a medical doctor with an approach, using also like supplements and stuff like that, kind of
Mm-hmm.
more like holistic kind of doctor,
Okay.
to summarize. And so when I had the negative test, and he told me, okay, well, the problem with Lyme disease is that it can do some neurological damage. So even if now the infection is gone, it's possible. I mean, it's really possible that the infection like damage you at the neurological level,
Mm-hmm.
and so that will be irreversible.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you have to learn to live with those things, with those
Yeah.
symptoms, which was really hard to listen to, and
Yeah.
hard to hear, hard to
I get
accept.
that. Yeah.
Um, so I say, okay, well, I need to. I'm not done trying stuff, and somehow the Wim Hof method came on my way, and I could feel that, yeah, almost immediately I could feel that it was making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
yeah,
and before you discovered the Wim Hof method, how bad were the impact of that disease? Like, were you able to walk or to talk, or like where
it,
were you in your health at that point?
so it depends. It was like a lot of ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
With like episodes of really really deep fatigue, and some episodes of I think with more activity,
Mm-hmm.
and also like those like episodes of depression that were coming ups and
Mm-hmm.
downs and ups and downs. And the thing is that I was um, I was kind of, I don't know if I'm not sure exactly how to say that, but like I was kind of pushing it hard, to maybe to prove myself that I really wanted to be alive, and
Mm-hmm.
so I was um, putting everything into like physical activity. It was
Mm-hmm.
like my
You
outlet.
were resilient to it.
Yeah, I was trying, to prove myself. No, I'm not, it's not done. I'm strong, and so I was
Mm-hmm.
putting everything in physical activity, and that's and I was doing a lot of running, yoga, and rock climbing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of really. I mean, I was doing. I don't remember how many hours of exercise per week, but it was quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But and still, I was, even when I had these episodes of fatigue, I was still finding, like the whatever I had left of energy to
Mm-hmm.
push and to push and to push.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, I remember I did my first marathon, and by the way, my only marathon it was in 2014,
Yeah.
and I finished it, and 2 or 3 weeks after that, I went completely burned out. Like
Mm.
after that, I couldn't walk more than 5 minutes.
Wow.
It was I couldn't speak more than like a few minutes.
Mhm.
Otherwise I had some dizziness
Yeah.
episodes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, no. So that's when I really hit the bottom at this
Mhm.
point. And so that was 2014, and that was at the end of early 2015
Mhm.
that I had the Lyme disease diagnosis, and the treatment that took about a year.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's so in between, I started to recover a little bit. So I was able to walk more than 5 minutes. Doing this kind of thing, but still, and the depression was really bad at that point. And yeah, I mean, in between 2008 and 2014, 15, I had tried so many things, from different kind of medication to integrative medicine to stuff that are more like more like, let's say, alternatives. And yeah, but it's true that when I encountered the Wim Hof method, yeah, I could feel a difference pretty quickly.
Mm.
uh, and yeah, it did. I mean, now, so okay, now I've been practicing it for 5 years,
Mhm.
and I still have some of those symptoms. I'm not going to lie and to pretend that I found, like the silver bullet against Lyme disease, or it's not like no miracle happened basically,
Yeah.
but I mean, still, I mean, the life is different for me. It's
Mhm.
not the same thing anymore. I can, yeah. I mean, as I was mentioning, I mean, privately earlier, I'm going to work,
Mhm.
walking for 45 minutes
Yeah.
twice every day. So it's voilà, and I can speak,
Yeah.
or
And enjoying life.
yeah, much better. Yeah.
So tell us about your journey with the Wim Hof. So today you are a level 2 instructor.
Mhm.
How has your practice evolved over the years? And I'm also curious to hear about your experience with the training. So you mentioned, I believe, it's 1 week in Los Angeles and 1 week in Oregon. Love to hear from you about that particular experience.
So the way it works when you want to be, if you want to become a Wim Hof Method certified instructor, is that first you have to validate what we call the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
So for this is basically is I mean is done by attending a fundamental workshop with a certified instructor, or to purchase like the course online
Mm-hmm.
and doing it on your own. So when you validate that, I mean, you know the basics, which,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the basics, it's what's usually it's like 90% of what you need for your practice afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you have to validate that. And once you have validated this, you can sign up for the Wim Hof Method Academy,
Mm-hmm.
and this happen in two steps. So you have like a weekend for the advanced module, and then you have the master module, which is like a week, 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so that happens either in Europe or in North America.
Mm-hmm.
So I was living in the US at that time, so I did it in North America. It was in the US. So the weekend, advanced weekend, was in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And the next part, the master module, was in Oregon, Mount
Mm-hmm.
Hood. So yeah, it's during those two modules basically. So you practice, obviously. I mean, every day you do breathing practice, and you practice cold exposure, obviously. I mean, the peak of the experience is when you climb the mountain wearing shorts
Mhm.
and shoes.
Yeah.
That's like I would say that's when that's the culmination of the experience.
Mhm.
And also you also chat a lot, exchange a lot about with like your people who are training you
Mhm.
about how to teach, how to how to transmit the method, how you tell story about yourself, this kind of stuff, how you can share it so that people because there is a lot. It's a The Wim Hof method is a lot about the experience that you live.
Mhm.
Like either if you go to a workshop that takes like a day
Mhm.
or to a retreat, um, people are looking to live something, to experiment something.
Mhm.
So obviously, I mean, we can discuss about theory and stuff like that. Especially, since I am a scientist, I love to geek, about the scientific detail and stuff like that.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I mean, people they want to live an experience,
Mhm.
like breathing together, then obviously the ritual of the ice bath and this kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
so we are trained, we are prepared to manage all of that, creating a nice atmosphere in a group, dealing with safety issues and things like this. So yeah, and and I did met Wim Hof
Mhm.
twice. Once in LA, he was not supposed to be here, but he was. It was kind of a surprise to see him
Nice.
for like a half day.
Yeah.
And in Oregon, so yeah, he was here 3 maybe 4 days,
Mhm.
something like that, and we climbed the
And
mountain with him.
what was about him that you loved or enjoyed the most about?
I mean, the guy is like really enthusiastic.
Mhm. Yeah,
He's
full of
just like
energy.
he's just like an incarnation of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
That's for me. That's what I really liked about him. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is it about the Wim Hof and breathing and the cold exposure that fires you the most, or that really excites you about, and that you keep doing, and now not just for yourself, but you have your own seminars and you share the methodology.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting question because yeah, of course, my practice evolved over the years.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I think when you start, you have that you feel like you are like it's some kind of a pioneer,
Mhm.
because you do this breathing technique that kind of makes your head spin and sometimes makes kind of giving you vision. I mean, I'm not talking about vision in esoteric uh, point of view, but more like yeah, it will kind of alter your perception, for a
Mhm.
few minutes.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the feeling that you are looking for, for the breathing, and
Mhm.
that and especially it has this kind of quieting effect, because it is an intense experience. I mean,
Yeah.
the Wim Hof method breathing technique is pretty intense, and at the end you have quite a strong feeling of calmness, of
Mhm.
stillness.
Mhm.
Um, so that's for the breathing. For the cold exposure, as I usually say, when people ask me, okay, why do you do that, or why do you keep doing this?
Mhm.
It's because I remember that when I took my first ice bath, it was back when I was living in Indiana, and yeah, I remember I was doing meditation at that
Mhm.
time. I'm still doing,
Mhm.
and it was maybe a few years I've been doing meditation. But when I went to my first ice bath, after I went out, I was thinking, wow, actually that's meditation.
Mhm.
That is meditation. It's like I was discovering what it is to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of the power of the cold. I mean, you put yourself in a situation that is pretty stressful. I mean, it's a pretty intense stress. You know, like water at just above freezing point. I mean, that's extremely stressful for the body,
And the
for
mind.
the exactly, yeah, for the reflex, the survival reflex and stuff like that. So if you go there and you can, you know, like quiet down your mind, yeah, that's a good example of you know what meditating is about. You know, like stopping the monkey mind and stopping the mind wandering and stuff like that. So that's why I'm still doing it. Yeah.
Do you have a goal for yourself in terms of staying in the cold for a certain amount of time, or do you just do what you know feels right for your body, and for you it's about the long term?
Um, I would say it's both.
Mm-hmm.
So and in fact, I can extend your question to the breathing too, because that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the same thing. When you start the Wim Hof method, I mean, since I started it in 2016, in these days, the online class was called the 10-week course. And, you know, there was, at this time, there was no application, like phone app, you know, to record you, to guide your breathing and to record your time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I remember you had to buy the class, and you had you could download like a PDF document to write down your retention time during your breathing. And so I'm mentioning this because yeah, it was like that when I did it, and nowadays people would use the app more. But it's the same thing. It's like it's about recording retention time. And what happened to me is that after a few months, maybe 6 months, I stopped recording my time because I was realizing, okay, now I'm at a point where I'm plateauing. So either I discourage myself and just okay, stop doing it and move to something else, or I can say, okay, I'm going to like a different level and go through use my breathing with a different kind of mindset, which is not about beating my time of retention, but more about, you know, feeling what's going on.
Yeah.
And that was a big switch for me.
Being aware, becoming self-aware.
Yes, exactly. Trying to be more aware of what's going on during the breathing process, because you go through different phases, it's also another form of stressor. You know, like we were talking about stress with the cold, but the breathing technique is also a form of stressor. You know, we go from hyperventilation to hypoxia. You know, so it's we play a lot with that. And so to listen what's going on, trying to observe my discomfort, being really being an observer of what's going on inside of me, because I think that's really the key. That's how you train your mindset, you know, to feel more comfortable during stressing event during the rest of the day. When you know, you know, in the Wim Hof method, so we have the 3 pillars. Breathing, cold exposure, and mindset. And when I teach my student, you know, about the mindset, it's not the easiest pillar to teach. You know, it's kind of more vague, you know. But what I like to tell them is that the first 2 are the formal practice, because that's really where you do an actual practice, you know. Like, you know, yeah, you sit and you breathe, or you go in cold water, shower,
So
or bath.
what is breath work, and why breath work?
Why do you? I'm not sure I understand exactly. I mean, related to the Wim Hof method, or in general?
for someone who doesn't know the Wim Hof methodology and what it's entitled, how would you explain it in a simple manner? What
Oh,
is breath
the
work and why would somebody
what
do it?
like what kind of breath work we are doing
Mm.
for the in the Wim Hof method?
Mhm.
So the basic technique consists in alternating like fast pace breathing
Mhm.
with breath retention. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm summarizing it. So we alternate like some, I mean, like, yeah, some like a phase of hyperventilation with breath retention, and by that, we modulate, how like the autonomous nervous system is triggered.
Mhm.
You know, change, like the blood biochemistry, this kind of thing. I mean, that can explain a lot of the feeling we can get during
Mhm.
the process. But yeah, but basically, yeah. I mean, technically speaking, for people who have no clue about what we do, yeah, it's about like alternating like phases of hyperventilation with breath retention.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
and
what would you say are the biggest benefit of this methodology of breathing?
basically, so the yeah, for that we have to approach this regarding the autonomous nervous system.
Mhm.
So that's the nervous system. I mean, we have several. We have several nervous system in the body, and I'm not going to tell everything about it because I don't know everything, but one of it is the autonomous nervous system, which is the nervous system that is basically regulating things that we are not aware of, that we are not conscious of. It's like like when you have a computer and you are using like a software. Behind your software, there is the operating system is doing a lot of stuff, in the
Mhm.
back
Yeah.
to make things like work fine all together. And so the autonomous nervous system is kind of like that. So it's what regulates, for example, your body temperature, your heart rate, immune system. Um, what else? I mean, many things. I don't think about everything right now, but all right. But that's also that system that happens to have two branches
Mhm.
called sympathetic, parasympathetic, also called fight or flight, rest and digest, or rest and repair, depending.
Mhm.
And so, in fact, you have like, I mean, that's kind of the how your stress level is determined.
Mhm. It's
Is
a amygdala, right? It's that
uh,
it's called the amygdala, that flight, fight flight response. It's
yeah.
that part of the brain.
Ah, I think it's. I'm. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest, because I think we are talking about the peripheral nervous system
Mhm.
at that stage. So yeah, I'm not sure if it does how it does affect the central nervous system. But yeah, I can't tell you. Um, so yeah, but how much activity do you have in your like the fight or flight branch versus the rest and digest branch is determining how stressed you are.
Mhm.
So typically, if you yeah, and it's a very reactive system. It can go into fight or flight mode very quickly,
Mhm.
uh, and if you are in, let's say you have a healthy practice of your, I mean, a healthy management of your stress, it can also like go very easily back into rest and digest mode. But
Mhm.
that's another problem. So you can be locked sometime
Mhm.
in the fight or flight mode, and that's what we call chronic stress. But that's and so that but that's why the Wim Hof method, I think is pretty good about is that when we do those breathing exercise, for example, and we can extrapolate that also with the cold exposure. But
Mhm.
when we do the breathing technique, we go from, I mean, at will, we go into the fight or flight mode, and then we go to the rest and digest mode. So in fact, we give like cues, to our nervous system in general. We say, okay, so this is stress, this is rest.
Mhm.
We just kind of re-educate
Mhm.
how you
We
must.
rewire the brain.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea. It's I'm
Yeah.
not. It's very speculative. I'm not saying it's like hard science, completely proved, like peer reviewed, etc. But that's basically the idea.
Mhm.
Uh, and that's really about okay, playing with the autonomous nervous system. So
Mhm.
that's a fundamental thing. But this is very like so this is all like unconscious.
Mhm. Yeah.
So this is all unconscious. That's why sometimes we have I mean, stress will come for example, you are driving and you have someone just like cutting in front of you.
Yeah.
That will be, you will have a stress reflex, so
Yeah.
it will like with discharge like adrenaline and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But usually, I mean not usually, I mean it always happen even before you realize that you realize consciously about the danger.
Mhm.
You're in
Happens very
your
fast.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fast
Mhm.
that the
And unconscious.
unconscious,
Yeah.
yeah, detected the danger and reacted to fight
Mhm.
or flight mode. Next, it goes to conscious, and when it reaches the conscious, then you have emotions that
Mhm.
can, like arise, that can, disappear or stay. But I'm just going there because yeah, it's like to make the difference, like how like stress and emotion are two different things. One is unconscious, one is conscious.
Mhm.
But we can with this breathing technique we can access the unconscious part by the breathing,
Mhm.
but somehow we can access also the conscious part, the emotion,
Mhm.
by doing some conscious work while we are breathing, like people do when they meditate. So you can, when you breathe and you say, okay, like when you are in the hyperventilation phase and you feel it's a stressful thing, and you can feel, okay, how are my emotions going,
Mhm.
and you try to get control on that.
Mhm.
If you feel that you are going too high, and like it's also a good time to say, oh, I should keep control, and
Mhm.
you know, and I remember there is a psychiatrist, a pretty famous French psychiatrist, Christophe André. Is pretty famous for. He brought a lot of mindfulness meditation in France. And I remember I was reading an article about him, and he was saying that some people who have like panic disorder.
Mhm.
So there are some psychologists or psychotherapists who use like hyperventilation because it's a way to induce a state of panic.
Mhm.
But if you do that in a controlled environment, it's a
Yeah.
good way to get actually used to the sensation of panic.
Mm.
You learn to say, oh, okay. You bring yourself, using breathing, you bring yourself to a state of panic,
Mhm.
but you're in a controlled environment, so nothing bad will happen. You're with your psychologist is here, and you're in his practice, and you learn to recognize, okay, I am in I see a
I
state of
am
panic
safe.
coming, but I'm dealing with it.
Mhm.
And then when you are in the real life, yeah, and you feel the panic coming, you'll be better at handling it and tackle it before it becomes wild.
Mhm.
And with the Wim Hof breathing technique, that's kind of the way I see it.
Mhm.
Exploring like some intensity as
Mhm.
stress and emotion and things like that, but like observing it and
Yeah.
trying to keep the control.
In a controlled environment where you can
Yeah,
actually see and
yeah,
be aware of your reaction, and then
yeah,
use that in a time where you are in real
yeah,
stress,
yeah,
and apply that control, that
yeah,
emotional control. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's. I remember when I was doing my, a few years ago, I was doing some meditation class, and the teacher, she was telling us about, like, if you imagine like a cow,
Mhm.
that would every day the cow would leave the barn and go to drink in a pond,
Mhm.
and every day the cow would use the same like
Path.
path
Yeah.
every day, and one day you would put like like an obstacle, like
Mhm.
a rock or whatever,
Yeah.
or no, a ball of straw,
Yeah.
and so the cow would have to use another path
Yeah.
which will be less direct.
Mhm.
And if you remove the obstacle, the
Yeah.
car will still use the longer path because it's used like that. You would
Mhm.
have to reteach it, how to use the shorter path. And she was saying, okay, like the brain is working the same way. If you if it learned, to react to some, trigger one way,
Mhm.
usually, I mean, not all the time, but if it happened like often enough,
Mhm.
that neural pathway will be like solid, I mean consolidated.
Mhm.
So if you learn to react to a situation by, let's say, anger,
Mhm.
well, it's kind of you're predetermined, to react by
Mhm.
anger, So having an exercise where you can observe yourself, in a situation, let's say, of panic coming, and not re- and think, oh no, I'm
Mhm.
actually not feeling that bad, I'm not going to panic. You actually, like, yeah, try to consolidate a different pathway. And so that's how the formal practice can be used in the real life. What you do when you are seated on your meditation cushion can go, in your daily life when you are driving or whatever.
I love what you're saying, because a lot of our behaviors are learned from our parents. And
Hmm.
by us seeing how our parents react to any situations, right? It could be also a stress situation. And if, for example, our mom or our dad had a anger response, then we've seen it over and over and over, and then we repeat it in our life, right?
Hmm.
and
Yep.
and exactly what you said, all this can be unlearned, but from a place of being fully aware,
Yeah.
and having some kind of tools, like here in this case the Wim Hof method, to rewire your brain for, you know being happier and better well-being, or uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. I love
No,
it.
yeah, yeah, it's true, and and I'm not going to. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's first of all, it's not easy to
Mhm.
rewiring yourself, and
It's
especially it depends. It's very, it's something you cannot say. It's probably like very specific to every one of us. We
exactly.
don't have the same history. Some people, they have very like deep trauma and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it's, and so for some of those people, it will be very easy to just get a little rewiring. For some other, it
Mhm.
will be really hard. Some will need some work, very like individual with a psychologist at the
Mhm.
same time, trying to tackle the issue from different angles.
Mhm.
But yeah, the Wim Hof method can be one of those tools. I'm not saying it's like the tool, that we can fix everything in the world, but yeah, it can be one of the tools
Mhm.
for that purpose. Yeah, yeah, and what happened when we go in the ice bath is the exact same thing.
Mhm.
You go in a stressful situation, and just by focusing on your breath, just a calming breath, you
Mhm.
just learn to accept, what's going on and say, oh, well, I don't need to panic.
So how do you learn to accept? For someone who has never taken an ice bath or wants to get into it and, maybe start with cold showers, what is the mindset that they need to apply to stay longer than 10 seconds,
Yeah, I see what you mean. First of all, it has to be gradual. I mean, for sure, okay, you can, of course, I'm sure you'll find people who say, who go in an ice bath just immediately with no training, but it's not the best idea. Usually, we recommend people to get used to the sensation, of course, see their reaction. I mean, also it has to do. It's not only for the psychological aspect, but it has to do also with cardiovascular system, because like when you are exposed to cold, your blood will be flushed in the more internal part of your body, like trunk and head, and you will have less blood in the extremities. But to do so, your cardiovascular system is strongly involved in that. Like you need like a vasoconstriction, in the extremities to bring blood inside, and like this vasoconstriction occurs through muscles. And like any muscle, if they are not used so much, they are weak. So if you've never done that before, your vasoconstrictive muscle might be a little bit weak. So you have to train them. So that's why it's good to get a little bit in some cold shower before. So yeah, I mean, typically people are encouraged to start to finish their shower with some cold water. And then to extend a little bit, and then start with cold, switch back to normal, finish with cold, and if you can, well, and it also depends where you are in the world, because in Canada it's not the same deal as in Florida. But if you can take like a 5-minute cold shower, you're very safe to go in an ice bath.
For me, in the lake, it's usually my fingertips that start hurting because of the high intense cold.
Yeah. Extremities are hard in the ice bath. Yeah, fingers, toes.
So the recommendation is to put gloves.
Yes and no. I mean, because I think toes and gloves, fingers and toes are part of the training. So I think it's good to train them. But I'm not ideological about that. It's not like, oh, you have to train your toes and fingers, so it's not a real ice bath if you use gloves. No, I'm not like that at all. I think that if you are in a situation, like let's say, like if I take an ice bath on my terrace, I have like a little bathtub where I can do my ice bath. There, I'm not putting any boots or gloves because I'm at home. I'm safe. Even if afterwards my hands and toes are kind of painful, I know I'm fine. If I'm going in nature and like it's like the bottom of the water is kind of rocky, maybe there is some broken glass, and after I have to drive like 15 minutes, so I want to be safe. So then I would put boots and gloves. I mean, and there is no shame about that. It's not like it's like I don't think people should be ideological about that. It's just like it depends on the situation.
Safety first.
Yeah, safety first, but then still keep in mind that okay, it's cool to go in the water, with boots and gloves, no problem. But if it's becoming, it should stay in mind that at some point you have to also to train your hands and feet.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, it's also part of the training.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
Which can be done, by the way, separately by putting them in a bucket of ice water. You know, no, yeah, seriously, you don't need to. That's very easy.
mhm.
Yeah.
So we talked about the breath work. We talked about cold exposure. The third pillar is mindset.
Yes.
So can you talk to us about the mindset more?
I can talk a little bit about it, yeah, because yeah, as I was saying earlier, it's a harder one, you know, to
Mhm.
define.
Mhm.
The way I like to approach it with like newer student is to say so that the first two pillars are the formal practice and the mindset is more the informal practice.
Mhm.
What I mean by that is that formal practice is like what you is when you go to the gym, for example. That's
Mhm.
your formal practice.
Mhm.
But the gym makes you stronger. You know, if you go to lift weight, for example,
Mhm.
and then you are better during the rest of your life to carry heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And that's more like the informal part of the
Mhm.
practice. You know, it's more like the outcome. And if we go to the Wim Hof method, so if we focus on what I was mentioning about the stress management with the autonomous nervous system,
Mhm.
so you have the two formal practices to work on that, on the stress, the breathing and the cold exposure. But what you learn from those formal practices, when you bring them in the daily life,
Mhm.
that's the mindset you train to face stress,
Mhm.
and that's the informal practice. And so, if you, let's say, if you just experience, if like something stressful happened to you and you even don't realize it,
Mhm.
it's not a practice, you see.
Mhm.
But if something that if you, for example, if you used to be stressed
Mhm.
about something,
Yeah.
you know, like I don't have example right now, but you used to be stressed about something, and then you practice your Wim Hof method for like a few weeks or months or whatever, and the same thing happened to you, and you realize, oh, I should be stressed right now, but it's weird, I'm not stressed. So
Mhm.
you became conscious, you know, of something happened, and so this awareness, I think it's part of the mindset,
Mhm.
because you actually practicing something. You know, you practice that. Okay, you acknowledge that
Mhm.
something has changed between you, so you can make you can make a comparison between your older you and your nowadays your now
Mhm.
you. So that's a mindset um, practice, I would say.
Mhm.
The other way to approach the mindset is pretty simple, I would say, is to say, okay, everything you do
Mhm.
is very dependent on your mindset. You know,
Yeah.
like if you, okay, if let's say not some years ago,
Mhm.
before I heard about the Wim Hof method and stuff like that or whatever, if I had some, you know, if I had some problem at home and I had no hot water anymore, it was like a disaster. You know, I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, I don't want to
Yes, for
shower, and
sure.
you know, I was like, oh no, I'm not showering today. You know,
Yeah.
but so which means that, you know, in my mind, I mean, the idea of cold shower was not something good
Mhm.
for me. You know,
Yeah.
now I think, yeah, I still, I mean, I still love hot shower. I still love
Mhm.
hot bath. You know, I have no problem with that. But now I know that the cold is also a good thing for me. I would
Yeah.
approach that with a very different mindset.
Your breakdown
So
became your breakthrough.
yeah, yeah, no, that's exactly. So that's a more simple way to approach the mindset. But yeah, that's basically. I mean, it's like think about like fasting. If you because okay, there are a lot of stuff going on, saying, well, fasting can be good for you and stuff like that. But if you are like living in a place where you have no food and you are really hungry because there is no food around you, you are not in that mindset where you say, "Oh, that's awesome, I'm fasting." No, you just want some food because you are starving. I mean, it's kind of a luxury to think, okay, oh, tonight I'm not going to eat, I'm going to starve because I have the mindset, that is telling me, oh, I'm going to starve and that is going to be good for me. But that's it's because you have the right mindset.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
So so we talked about the breath work, we talked about the cold exposure and the mindset. Now, if there will be some actionable, so for people who are listening and they want to apply that in their life, the Wim Hof method and the cold exposure, what would you say? How will they start, or how will they improve their own practice? What are the few actionable items or few tips that you have for them?
So I mean, for beginners, I mean, for complete beginners, I would encourage them to check the. So I think the WimHofMethod.com, they have some free material, like guided session, stuff like that. I mean, I know some certified instructor or even maybe some random people, they put some stuff on YouTube. Some are good, some are not so good. I don't know all of them, but there is definitely some good materials. I would also recommend, okay, to attend a workshop with a certified instructor. That's also another way. But generally speaking, either for the cold or for the breathing or for the cold, I would encourage people, I mean, beginners, to go like gradually, because for the cold it kind of makes sense. People usually understand that you have to go gradually to adapt yourself, and even just mentally adapting yourself. But for the breathing, it's not as obvious. People who say, "Oh, I'm going to breathe really hard," and even with breathing, I think it's better if you go gradually. I think.
And you still see the benefits. That's what.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
need
No,
to stay there for a long time to see a difference.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, especially when you start, you have like some like very specific sensations related to that. So, but yeah, I would obviously encourage them to practice safely. So, like for the breathing, do it like seated, back against the wall, or lying. Don't do it if you have epilepsy. If you have like a history, of heavy cardiovascular problem, check with your doctor. It's better. Also, pregnant women should avoid it, and let's say kids before 16 or 15, 16 also should avoid it. The idea that the retention time, the breath retention that we do,
the hold,
breath hold, we are not exactly sure how it can affect like a baby of a pregnant woman, the brain development of the baby, and also for a kid, for children, it's not sure because so that's why it's but then for adult, for epilepsy, people with epilepsy, no, it's not absolutely not recommended. But other than that, it's pretty okay, as long as you practice safely and you don't manipulate a dangerous object at the same time, or don't want to do that in the water also, because you can pass out and you can drown. So
Yeah, absolutely. So you have your own seminars where you teach the method and the cold exposure. What are the questions, the main questions or the top questions that you hear all the time or that people ask you?
um, there are there are a few questions that comes yeah, all the time. Okay, here is a few. So first, one that comes very often is should I breathe through my nose or my mouth?
Mm-hmm.
So
That's a good one.
I would say, okay, nose.
Mm-hmm.
Use your nose. Um, so
Why the
I,
nose and not the breath, not the mouth?
oh, for many things. So um, I'm a Wim Hof Method certified instructor, but I'm also an Oxygen Advantage certified instructor, which is another kind of breathing technique.
Mhm.
And generally speaking, I'm interested in breathing in general. So the take-home message, if we talk about that, is that you should use your mouth to eat, speak, and kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Three things.
and yes, and for breathing, you should use your nose.
Mm-hmm.
You may want to use your mouth for breathing,
Mm-hmm.
but more as an emergency
Mm-hmm.
uh, thing. There are many reasons, like so, for example, like the nose is kind of a filtration unit.
Mm-hmm.
It will filter like pathogens, allergens. Um, when the air is going inside, it will kind of circulate deep inside, so it will get warmer and it will get at the right humidity before
Mm-hmm.
going in the lung, so it will be like less stress on your lung. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are less stress on your lungs, you will have better like a better use of your lungs. So yeah, and there are other things, but at least that gives you like the main aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, what I just say is very important for you. I would say the daily life. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say like during the day, you should use your nose to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
When you do the Wim Hof method breathing technique, uh, so Wim was saying, he was, and he's still saying that. He's saying, okay, use whatever hole you want. That's his saying.
Yeah.
Very classy. So he's using his mouth,
Mm-hmm.
but at the Wim Hof Method Academy, it's been now like so I became an instructor in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and in these days, we were already recommending people to start doing the Wim Hof method breathing techniques using their nose instead of their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why is that like the nose has like two or three times more resistance than the mouth
Mm-hmm.
to let air going in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's harder to use the nose,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we need a lot of air.
Yeah.
And that's why since we are lazy creatures, we use the mouth very easily because we are lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Where we should train the nose to be more efficient, but that's a different
Mm-hmm.
story. But the idea is that overall, with the nose, you have less intensity because you have more resistance. But it means that if you have less intensity, you have more control.
Mm-hmm.
And for like a very intense breathing techniques, like the Wim Hof method breathing technique, it's good to spend like maybe a couple of months, maybe 3 months, to practice it using the nose because you have control of what's going on. So you have less risk to pass out when you do the heavy breathing phase.
Yeah.
So that I would encourage people, and then when they feel very comfortable, they learn to recognize like the sensations in their bodies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would tell them, well, yeah, you can play around with your mouth, as long as you breathe through your nose the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
For the Wim Hof method breathing technique, yeah, you can try experiment with the mouth.
Yeah.
Just don't make it like something obvious and something like a daily stuff for the whole day. So that's like a question that comes very often.
Nice. Any other questions that come to mind?
Retention times and how long do you stay in the ice bath? That's kind of so it's all about times. So what I usually answer to that is that, okay, it depends what we are looking for. Are you looking for performance or wellness? Like if you are looking for performance, so I think the Wim Hof method breathing technique is it's good, to have long breath retention, because you can keep it for a long time, but it's not the best method. I think for that people who really want to go serious about performance in breath holding, they should see what free divers do, and it's not the exact same thing. And performance in the ice bath, well, it's like if you want to go this way, it's possible, but it's dedication and discipline. It's like so. But if you want to go for wellness, which is, I think, what most people want, or actually what most people can do, because if you want to go on the performance path, it means that you have to train hard, like you would train hard for, like another sport. Like I was talking with the world record of immersion in ice, Romain van den Dorp, a French guy, and he stayed like 2 hours and 35 minutes in the ice. And what he said is that, what I did, I proved that everyone can do it because I did it. But the training, it means that everyone has a capacity to do that. But it also means that during 2 years, he was like waking up at 6 a.m., going like 40 minutes in a freezer. So you need to work hard to achieve that. When we go on the wellness path, it's different, because for the wellness path, what you want to feel when you go in the cold, you want to put yourself in the cold, feel the initial stress reaction. So you have that and you want to take control back with your breath,
with your breath.
Take back control, and then you just you're good usually after 1 minute and a half, 2 minutes, you're good. Maybe 3 minutes, that's it. That's all you need for
the first kind of 30 seconds to 1 minute that are the most challenging, right? Where your mind is trying to talk you out of it.
Exactly. And then as you say, it's feeling better. And that's exactly when you should be careful, because feeling better means that you are synthesizing a lot of natural painkiller, but you're still getting colder and colder, So that means you should be careful when you feel great. When I was interviewing Romain, the world record guy, he was telling me, okay, he was saying, okay, when you go for like 25 minutes and the clock ring, because it's 25 minutes, you just go out, especially if you feel good. Especially if you feel good, because that's when your body may send you some kind of wrong signal. See what I mean? So that's why when people ask me, okay, what about usually especially since I'm an instructor and I've been practicing like for 5 years, they would ask me, oh, how long do you stay in the ice? Usually I don't like to answer that. At least I don't like to answer that publicly. People know around me, but it's just because I don't want to give that
signal,
that information, that the longer you stay, the more the badass you are. Because I think it's not about what the Wim Hof method is about.
Yeah, I agree. So you mentioned the Wim Hof method, and the other practice that you mentioned was the oxygen breathing.
Oxygen advantage.
So
Oxygen
can
advantage.
you quickly just talk to us about it, and how different is it?
Yeah, it's like a. So it's not me who invented that comparison, but I liked it, and I don't remember the person who said that. So I'm apologizing for my plagiat. But
Good.
so the if the Wim Hof method would be like if you imagine like the yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Wim Hof method would be the yang, the oxygen advantage would be more the yin.
Got it.
Yeah, because in fact, in the oxygen advantage approach, one of the central idea is breathe less so that you breathe better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
How
very
do you
different from
breathe less?
it's very easy. Just slow down your breath. It's just slow
Mm.
and slow and slow and slow, more and more. The idea is more like about yeah. I mean, yeah. It's a So the Wim Hof method has three pillars.
Mm-hmm.
The oxygen advantage method has two pillars. The first one is called the functional breathing, using a breath light protocol.
Mm-hmm.
And the second pillar is simulation to altitude training.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part is definitely like focused on like health and wellness, but it can benefits athletes a lot. The second pillar is more I would say it's more oriented to sport performances, because
Mm-hmm.
if you start to want to do some altitude training, it means that you are more into like a sport
Yeah.
performance.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is more to play on the because when we experience a breathlessness, we most people think that it's because we need more oxygen,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't have enough oxygen, so we have that reflex to breathe more.
Mm-hmm.
So we feel breathless because we have not enough oxygen. But this is not true.
Okay.
It's
So
in fact, the sensation of breathlessness come from an over from too much CO2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about not having enough O2, it's about having too much CO2.
Okay. So how does
Yeah.
that happen? How do you take too much CO2?
No, so it's because every one of us has different sensitivity. There is a threshold
Mm-hmm.
that if your blood CO2
Mm-hmm.
pass that threshold, you will have the signal. Okay, now I need to breathe more. It's completely unconscious, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but that's how. And so if you have like a very low threshold, so you are very sensitive to CO2, it means that you will be constantly feel breathless, and you will have a constant signal to breathe in, breathe in, breathe in. So you end up having a hyperventilation syndrome. So you will hyperventilate all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the definition of hyperventilation is to breathe, I mean, to like ingest more oxygen that is actually required for your metabolic needs.
So how do you regulate that? So for someone who unconsciously take too much oxygen.
You have to train yourself to accept, like that breathlessness. So you would start to you will do like breathing session where you like purposely slow down your breathing as much as you can. I mean, I'm kind of summarizing it briefly, but
Yeah.
and you want to create that feeling of breathlessness, and you will try to stay in that state for a longer time, longer and longer time. And you do that several times a day. And you can also work on breath retention, but like a small breath retention. Like you would take like 2 or 3 breaths, and after the last exhale, you just stop breathing for like 5 seconds, and you do that like for 3 minutes. That's a practice, and you would do that multiple times a day. You can do it by walking. You can just breathe, let's say 12 times, and after the last exhale, just stop breathing like for 5 steps, 10 steps, see how far you can go. I mean, there are a lot of little exercises like that we do. There are a few tests that we do to evaluate people's sensitivity to CO2. But so that's why I was saying that it's kind of it's a different approach from the Wim Hof method thing, because you don't have those
So if there was one exercise you would like to leave the audience, our viewers with, which one would it be?
Sorry?
If there's one exercise you want to share with our viewers,
Oh,
one of your favorite exercise,
I think
what would
so.
it be?
I think if we are talking about breathing, in fact, I would go. I think first, whatever you want to do with your breathing, you need a functional breathing. You want a functional pattern. You want to use the right muscle at the right time, and that, it's kind of for me, it's like the foundation of everything. When you have that foundation, then you can start to do some specific exercises. So I like, for example, I like a lot the cardiac coherence protocol, which is, it's basically like breathing in 5 seconds, breathing out 5 seconds, doing that,
So
like
that's
several.
box breathing, right?
So box is like 5 in, retention 5 out, retention. So cardiac coherence is just like 5 in, 5 out, 5 in, 5 out, and you do that, and you do that like several sessions a day. So that's one of my favorite one. It's more like if you have like a functional breathing and you add some, let's say, like a cardiac coherence exercise, you are like building like really good foundation. And on that, you can do like oxygen advantage stuff, Wim Hof method stuff, which are more specific. For me, both the oxygen advantage or the Wim Hof method, I mean, of course, they are great stuff. That's why I'm teaching them. But there are actually like very specific applications. It's not stuff that you want to do like all day long, obviously, especially like the Wim Hof method breathing technique. But a functional breathing pattern, that's kind of a goal to have to breathe like that all day long. And so that would be my really number one advice here. Because most like breathing school, you can find a lot of information about saying, oh, breathe, do like the box breathing, do the like 4-7-8 breathing, do but they are usually they don't give much detail about the biomechanics. Like how to reinforce your diaphragm, how to isolate your diaphragm versus like the abs. How do you differentiate the inhaling muscle versus exhaling muscles? All of those stuff are not really taught very in detail usually, and I think that's where to start. Once you master that, all the other exercises I mentioned, they go to a new dimension, basically, because you own the foundation.
So if anybody is interested to find out more about your seminars and what you do, where can they find you?
Well, so I have a website, respirewhm.com. I have social media. Usually it's
Mhm.
Respire Align, Align with an E because it's in French. My workshops are, I mean, right now they're all online.
Mhm.
At some point, it will go back, to normal. But I'm doing like breathing workshops online typically.
Mhm.
Right now, most of them are in French, but I can always adapt if I feel there is a demand
Mhm.
to do it in English. I can do that in English, no problem. Yeah, so yeah, Respire Align is usually my how
And
to
you
find me.
go, I will imagine, in depth with the diaphragm, breathing, and the different components.
Yeah, I had so I have if I let's say if I do like when I do like like a Wim Hof breathing workshop,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a 1 hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I use 1 hour and a half, and yeah, I try to go as much as I can in depth during 1 hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I was doing also like a series of five classes,
Mm-hmm.
5 times 1 hour and a half of private classes, and for that one we went really really in depth. Yeah, like how to feel all of that and how to reinforce, to stretch all of this. So yeah, and maybe I will do it again. I'm not sure yet.
Yes,
Yeah,
please do
yeah.
it. I will join.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So to finish off, I have a
Mhm.
series of rapid fire questions for you. So just brief answer. It's the favorite of our viewers. So whatever comes to mind. Okay.
Okay.
So what was a life-changing book for you that you would recommend?
Um, well, it's hard. Yeah. Well, you said I should give like a fast answer. Actually, it was a novel.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, lately. Oh, okay. No, I have a good one. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a little philosophy book about ethics,
Okay.
and it's called "The Effect of Warm Croissant on Human Kindness,"
Mm,
and
interesting.
it's pure philosophy of ethics. It's
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of thought experiment and stuff like that. It's analytical philosophy. The
Mm-hmm.
name is his name Ruben Augien. He was a
Mm-hmm.
French guy. He died a couple of years ago, but yeah, it's excellent. One of the
Amazing.
most important stuff I read. Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
What mantra or affirmation do you live by?
None.
None.
Yeah. No, it's really yeah. No, no, none, none.
What is the number one thing that you want to accomplish by the end of this year?
Um, I'm not sure. Usually I don't plan so much stuff. I kind of live day after day.
Mhm.
Uh,
So
so far,
you build a sauna, $100 sauna. Is there anything
yes, I
that you're planning to build for the summer?
no, I think yeah, I would like to. Yeah, I think I would like to. I'm not sure where it will go with my workshops, because I started that series of 5 class about reading,
Mhm.
and I have some other project in my mind about stuff that I could do, but it's not clear yet. But yeah, that would be about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you're
like
also learning to play the handpan, right? Which is
yes,
so
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, no, yeah, it's just right here next to me.
Amazing. Who is counting on you today to be at your best?
I'm not sure. Seriously, it's not really. Yeah, and yeah, I have no clue. I don't. I usually don't ask myself this kind of question. So I'm sorry. I'm not really. Yeah.
Yourself, your higher self is counting on you, maybe.
Yeah, I'm even not sure what my higher self is. So it's
Mhm.
for me, all of those things are kind of messy in my head.
Mhm. Interesting.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you look forward to every single day? Do you have something that you just can't wait to do?
Um, so besides food, but I mean, happy. It's kind of easy answer, but I think yeah, happiness in general. I don't really care about like performance or stuff like that.
Being in
Uh,
the present moment.
just happiness with whatever the face of that happiness is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Nice. What cartoon character did you resonate with the most as a child?
a cartoon
Yeah.
character.
Mm-hmm. Do you have?
Um, yeah, and he's still my hero, but I'm not sure people would know him on that side of the ocean. But his name is Gaston Lagaffe.
Yes, of course.
Yes, yeah.
Awesome. If you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what would your last speech sound like? What would you like to leave humanity with?
Um, like I would say like something like like yeah, I have to find the right word, but it would be like something like practice seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously.
Mm,
Like yeah. I mean, there is a good balance to find between some discipline, but also just don't think you are just like probably what you're doing is something that someone else did before. So don't take yourself too seriously.
mhm. I love that.
Yeah,
Practice seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
great way to end our podcast today, Sebastian. Thank you so much for your time. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience as well. So
Mhm.
I'll make sure to post your website, and do let us know when you do this 5 series workshop again. I'm sure a lot of people would love to join. And yeah, maybe in English should be the next step for you.
Yeah. I mean, I was teaching in English when I
Mhm.
was in the US, so it's not really a problem. But
Yes.
yeah,
That sounds great. Well, I want to acknowledge you for, all the good that you are doing, and for, helping people through all the different methodology that you are learning to get better and be better, and also to enjoy life, and like yourself, to have a happy lifestyle, and happy mind, because especially in this lockdown, it's so much more important to take care of the well-being, to take care of the mind. And I know a lot of people do struggle with depression and anxiety, so all the work you're doing is so important, and just keep doing and sharing like you're doing. It's great.
all right. Well, thank you. I mean,
All right, we'll see you
yeah,
soon, Sebastian.
yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining, and this will be shared on my YouTube channel and on the different podcasts, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. So if you haven't had a chance to either hear the whole interview or want to share with your friends, this will be available. And I will see you soon for the next one. Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye,
Yeah.
Sebastian.
Right. Bye.